Welcome to the Instant Reaction podcast then. And the Seahawks have lost for the first time this year. And look, this is a team that has played things pretty close and tight, unnecessarily so, for a few games. And they nearly lost to what I think is fair to say we can look back on now as a poor New England team. They almost lost that game in week 2. They almost lost to a really awful Dallas team in week 3. And if you keep playing games this tight, then eventually you will drop a game. And that is what's happened tonight. The Seahawks had no business in losing that game, leading by 10 points with about 3 or 4 minutes to go. But that is what has happened. And even with a bit of luck at the end, with a missed field goal and opportunities to win it in overtime, they just couldn't get it done. There's a lot to talk about with this game. But Robbie, what is your instant reaction to a very disappointing night for the Seahawks?
I think that right there, disappointing. I hate losing. No one likes to lose. And, it's just frustrating to, have that 10-point lead and to watch us blow it, and then get the opportunity again in overtime and just blow it again. And it was not fun to watch. I mean, that first half looked great. And, I felt really comfortable going into the second half. I was like, if we can keep coming out, and some reason our offense really stalled that second half. And I don't know what happened, or if they started throwing some different looks at Russ or whatever happened, but something changed and we didn't adjust very well. And obviously the defense didn't play good. So, it's disappointing. I hate losing to, especially in an NFC West divisional game, which, we need to win these ones. These are the ones that count. So.
Russell Wilson looked incredibly spooked throughout the second half, didn't he? I mean, obviously Arizona did something and they adjusted, and we heard, Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels talking about how they were blitzing a bit more and showing some different looks and playing pure man coverage. And you could hear Chris Collinsworth at the end saying they're playing cover 0 and they was going to come after Wilson. And he just went into his shell, and the whole offense, which was, in the first half, they were saying they're on pace to break a record for most yardage in a game. I think they'd run for something like 125 yards and passed for 250. And Arizona had no answer to Seattle in that first half, and they led by, I think it was 10 points, didn't they? And then in the second half, just Wilson just really regressed. And this for me, it's like if they won the game, you could sit afterwards and go, well, Wilson wasn't particularly good in the second half, but what a first half. But because they've lost, it highlights how reliant they are on the quarterback for a start. And that, if Wilson's performance regresses, and even on a night when, they've scored plus 30 points again, it's another 34-point game. And that's not enough for the Seahawks because the defense has given up 37. And it's not just the defense, let's be right. I mean, Russell Wilson in that second half was awful. 3 really bad interceptions. It's now 4 really bad interceptions in 2 games. As well as he's played at times this year, he's had real moments against Minnesota now and in this game as well where he's been poor, and you have to say that. And what it kind of exposes, Robbie, and it's, this isn't just the whole thing, but it exposes that if he's not consistently at a really good level, the defense just isn't good enough to play complementary football. They just can't get off the field. There was 0 pass rush, absolutely no pressure. Collinsworth is saying on the call, they really badly miss a premier pass rusher and maybe even a Jadeveon Clowney type. And, it was all so predictable. And, I've got a wider point. I'm not just going to keep talking and mention everything I want to say in this one comment here, but it was predictable. It is predictable. A result like this has been coming. It's been on the cards. They've escaped. Not for any longer. And this will have serious ramifications in the NFC West race.
Yeah, I mean, so, okay, let's go over some positive or negatives. All right, let's start with some positives. All right, I thought Jordan Brooks played really well. I thought he made a beeline to Kyler Murray where Murray was on the outside, and he got him. Saw him well short of a first down when he was trying to run for it. And I thought Jordan Brooks came out and he looked fast, like he looked quick and looked like a Seahawks linebacker. So I was really impressed with his play tonight. I also, I really liked the way Carlos Hyde ran the football. I know it didn't, there at the end, he didn't get really much of a good deal. I don't really love the pitch out on 2nd and 10. Like, I don't know. See, here's some of my problems. So I'll just go right into some of the negatives because what's going to happen. Schottenheimer, as good as he's been, there's times where his play calling is just mind boggling and I don't understand what he's doing. And like, I think he's almost overthinking and over analyzing and trying to get too tricky with things like the fake to one way, but pitch out the other way. And then you lose 6 yards on a run play when you need to gain yards. Run it right up the middle. Don't do anything stupid. Don't do anything tricky. Just let's get it, or do a quick pass. And where were the tight ends in the second half? Like, I mean, I didn't see him at all. So that was really frustrating. I mean, bring in a 2 tight end set. If you're having, if it's that confusing that they're doing for the defense, bring in an extra blocker, have him block and then release and give Wilson a check down. I don't know. Those are some of my negatives. Obviously, Tyler Lockett played out of his mind, 15 catches, 200 yards. I love the play call to DK on that 3rd down where he scored but didn't score. But why not do that earlier, Schottenheimer? Why not try to get him involved earlier in the game? Why are you waiting? You know, Patrick Peterson shutting him down. If you want to do that, try to get him involved earlier, get him going. Like, these are the things that are super frustrating. And that's just on the offensive side of the ball, you know, I mean, and the defensive side of the ball. The only thing I can say out of a positive is maybe this is an eye-opening moment where they'll finally be like, okay, yeah, let's go get somebody. I mean, I've been waiting for it. We've got one more full week of games, and then the trade deadline's here. So like, go make it happen. Go get somebody. I don't even care who it is at this point. Get someone. They don't even have to be a superstar. They just have to be enough to make our defense average at this point.
Do you know what? Just to unpack that before, you know, I go on to negatives and the 2 positives, which, you know, Tyler Lockett's a positive and DK chasing down that interception. That's the positives out of the way. The whole
that was
point
incredible.
On a point on the trades, I just don't know, Robbie. I've thought for a while that if they just got one pass rusher, then maybe the defense could do just enough to scrape by. I just can't see it. I mean, I don't think a 31, 32-year-old malcontent aging defensive end from Cincinnati and Carlos Dunlap is going to save this defense. I don't think Ryan Kerrigan's going to save it. I just think it's too bad. They blew it in March. I've had an awful lot of stick from people for going over this in the offseason. And the reason you go on about it all the way through the offseason is because it's predictable. And look, 5-0 was a great start. Nobody ever said the Seahawks were going to have a losing record. Nobody said the Seahawks weren't going to make the playoffs. The whole point is you want to progress. You don't want to finish second in the NFC West again. Have to go to Lambeau Field in January to play a playoff game, or to go to, I don't know, the Rams or San Francisco or whoever, Arizona, I don't know, anybody in the NFC. You want to win the NFC. Seattle haven't won the NFC West. They've won it once in 5 years. That's not good enough. Going out in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, again, will just be a wasted season. And going 5-0 and beating, let's be fair, a bunch of bad teams to get to 5-0 is one thing. But what really mattered was the games against the NFC West. And if the Seahawks had turned up today, had an off day and lost 27-10 or whatever, 27-20, you could just go fair enough. They lost to the Cardinals. The Cardinals were 4-2. They had a winning record. They beat the Niners in week 1. So be it. But when you lead by 10 points with 3 minutes to go, you've got to close that out. The defense has got to close that out. Russell Wilson, 3 interceptions, all horrendous. I mean, they're not even mildly bad. They're horrendous. The first one, what's he doing? Looping it up in the air on the goal line and just inviting it to be picked up by Budda Baker. I mean, that should have been a pick 6. It would have been, if anybody other than DK Metcalf was on that side of the field, that would have been a pick 6 for 90-odd yards. He's got another looping one that's just thrown straight to the defender. And then at the end of the game, you're thinking, well, if nothing else, they may well just sneak out with a draw, which wouldn't be the end of the world. And then he throws another stupid interception. I had no idea where that came from Russell Wilson.
That last one was the worst too. He tried to do something quick. I saw him like pointing to Tyler, and he clearly didn't read it.
I saw it straight away. Tyler Lockett was stood on his own, uncovered. It's sort of in the slot. You could see it. And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking he's going to go there. He's going to go there. They're bringing the heat, and they're going to go for Russell, and he's got to get this out to Tyler. And he just tried to do a little pop pass. But then I don't know whether someone dropped or just they didn't go all out blitz, if someone just dropped into that space and they knew what they were doing. Oh, he's going to throw to Tyler Lockett. We'll just drop into this space. I don't know if it was that. I don't know if it was just because the pass was so bad. But, just that's not good enough from Russell Wilson, for a player who it's on his shoulders to make up for so many of the warts on this team. The defense, though, it is like wet toilet paper. Again, there's no pass rush, there's nothing. And I don't think one player is going to make any difference. And the play calling, as you mentioned, just what Arizona at the end of the game and in overtime just capitalized on Seattle's tiredness and found ways to just move the ball at ease, getting chunk yardage all the time. Whereas when Seattle was on offense, every single completion or run felt like a complete headache. It was like every yard was hard earned. There was no easy play. Trying to pitch it out and stuff like that. The third down, which essentially, they needed 2 yards to win the game. It feels like an age ago that now. And you just should have run a little stretch run with Carlos Hyde, and you're thinking, in that situation, if you bootleg with Russell and give him the option of maybe they did it all game, have Tyler coming across the formation or Jacob Hollister or a tight end coming across the formation, and if the defender peels off to go to Russell, you just dump it over him for completion. You can go out of bounds there. It doesn't matter. You're taking knees. Or if he doesn't come, you run for it. If they don't convert on that, I'm saying fair enough. At least you can make sense on the call, but just sort of running a really basic, predictable run play in that situation, just to make sure that you kill the clock at them, and then putting it on your defense to get a stop, Robbie. The Seahawks, in no situation, in no game for the rest of the year, should the Seahawks be thinking, well, just put it on our defense to try and close this out for us. They are incapable of doing it. Let me look at the yardage today. It's another 519 yards. And yeah, okay, some of that is because of overtime as well. But that, it's every week, 400, 500 yards. No sacks, no pressure, nothing. And for me, Robbie, this was a major reality check for a lot of people that, Russell's not going to play this badly again. And they will probably have performances that are ugly in the future and win the games as they have done already. But the ramifications in the NFC West, Arizona are now 2-0. And you are 0-1. They've got a tiebreaker. They've already beaten the Niners. You're playing the Niners next week. And by the way, the Niners were fantastic against New England today. Next week's a huge game now.
Yeah, it's a huge game. Absolutely. I mean, the Niners, Kyle Shanahan is just a phenomenal coach. He just has those guys playing, and he just schemes so well. And the other thing I'm going to talk about with the play calling, like I know people are calling for Kid Norton to be let go and bring back Dan Quinn or whatever, and that's not going to happen this season. But I mean, you can see a clear difference in play calling when he's lining guys up 9-10 yards off the ball and they're just getting chunk play after chunk play. I mean, you're right. Where are they get the guys up, at least give the corners an opportunity to get a push off and let the D-line at least try to get there, but don't just sit back and give them chunk play, especially when all they need is a field goal. Like the bend that don't break doesn't work if they're going for a field goal, right? You want to stop them for a touchdown, fine, but don't do it for a field goal. So that was really frustrating. I don't know why Ken didn't dial something else up. Try to get the guys motivated to get after the quarterback. I mean, I know they were super worried about Kyler running, but man, it was, I would rather go after him, not get him, and have him run for a huge yard than just sit back 15 yards, 10, 15 yards and have him just chuck it down, get out of bounds, chuck it down, get out of bounds, and then have it be, that's it, game over. That for me is super frustrating. And you're right. It comes down next week. This is going to be a huge game against the Niners, and they're not looking like they're a bad football team at all. This whole NFC West is looking like a good division. So, I mean, it's going to be a tough game. We need to come out and, hopefully we'll get Jamal Adams back. That will be a key. I think he is, I'm not saying he's the end all be all, but we need him. I mean, when he's been playing good, and we need more playmakers on defense, no matter what. And then we need to go out and we need to try to acquire. Maybe we get Carlos Dunlap and Geno Atkins. I mean, that would be incredible if we were able to pull off some sort of deal where we get both of them. Like, we need a defensive tackle and we need the end, and that's where, it's not just be one guy, but we need a couple. So maybe we can go out and do something. I know Cincinnati's super hard to trade with, so I mean, I'm not really counting that as being a realistic option, but we need to do something, right? We can't just sit back, and let it be what it is. I mean, if we want any shot at winning the actual Super Bowl and winning the NFC West and getting far in the playoffs, we need to go out and get somebody.
I'm looking at the options. I just don't see who's out there. And there just doesn't seem to be anybody that makes me think that's the guy. That is going to elevate this defensive performance. And let's be right, the pass rush is absolutely terrible. It's as bad as everybody thought, and all that rubbish in the offseason about Benson Mayowa and Bruce Irving, make up their production from last season. This will be better than having Jadeveon Clowney. And, the second coming of the Legion of Boom will bow out. I mean, look, the cornerbacks are not playing well. None of them are playing well. Quandre Diggs is, to me, a liability at this point. He's not playing. He's in a category now where he's better than Tedrick Thompson, but he's still not good. And he's just not. I mean, I had the interception today. It was thrown straight at him by Kyler Murray. So the secondary's not playing well enough. I don't think Bobby Wagner's playing like an $18 million linebacker. But maybe that's in part because the defensive line's not very good. I just don't see the one player. And even Jamal Adams coming back, he played really well against Atlanta when Atlanta had absolutely no idea what the Seahawks were going to do on defense. I don't think he played that great against New England. And he only played a portion of the game against Dallas, where he didn't really have much of an impact. So, I mean, and you look at his grade on PFF, excellent against Atlanta, not great for the next two games, and has given up yardage, as all the defensive backs have. So I'm glad that he's coming back next week, but I wonder how much difference he can make to this team. And look, he'll need to make a huge difference next week against the Niners. There was a couple of other things I wanted to mention here, Robbie. This is the first time so Seattle had won 41 straight games in which it had led by 10 or more at halftime. That was the longest streak in the NFL, and they blew that tonight. And it's just so frustrating. And one of the reasons they blew it, Robbie, there's so many strands to this that you could sort of point at. I mean, what on earth is Benson Mayowa doing at the end of the game? Trying to jump over the protection on the field goal. What is he doing? Why have the coaches not said, we've got what we want here. This is look where they are on the field. We want them to kick the field goal here. We want to be able to go back out and either win it, just running the ball, or we want to give the defense a chance to defend a touchdown as opposed to the field goal, which is exactly what they did against Dallas and New England. It's hard to score a touchdown with limited time left, with 50 seconds or a minute to go. It is not hard to drive from the 20 to about the 40 or the 35 for a field goal attempt. Benson Mayowa jumping over that lineman was one of the huge reasons why the Seahawks lost that game. Because then you come out afterwards and you give them, even if you maybe convert, you've got a bit more spring in your step because you've got a 7-point lead. The pressure's not quite as on. You kick it back to them in that situation with so much time available, and I think they had all of their timeouts to kick that field goal. That was poor. That's a really poor decision. And why did one of the coaches not say to them, maybe even take a timeout and say, look, do not give away, do not run into the kicker, and don't jump over the offensive line. If you're offside, well, whatever, they'll probably kick it again. Just do not, whatever you do, don't even rush, just sit back. I mean, that is such a costly error, and that is on Mayowa, and it's on the coaches for not making sure that line were prepared.
Yeah, 100%. But here's the thing. You can also take this as a positive. Like, these are learning things that we can go forward and say, like, going forward, don't that. I mean, sure, we're going to take a loss for it now, but I mean, you don't want that. But like trying to spin it in a positive way, Rob. Like, I mean, I know I just saw you roll your eyes big time there. But the thing is like, you got to try to, like, I mean, the coaches hopefully will use this as an opportunity to say, like, I mean, it should have been obvious, right? I mean, don't do that. But, maybe like, there's a lot of things that we could have done. Like, you look at, I really don't want to say the refs, but like, they didn't have that stupid call on Bobby where it was like a ridiculous thing and they go down and score a touchdown there right after. And like all these things, there's all these little things you can say, okay, well, the little things didn't go a certain way. We could have won that football game and could have won by maybe a lot more, but things just didn't go that way. Benson made a terrible decision and I don't know what he was thinking. And you're right. The coaches should have been all over him. Well, they did. They sat him down. I mean, I don't know if you saw that, but he got reamed on the sideline. They pulled him off the field. I mean, yeah. I'm trying to spin it the best way I can and maybe be a positive, but yes, overall it's just super frustrating to watch them go through and do something that really could cost them the game, in my opinion. I mean, other than Russ with his terrible picks, I mean, that was the one thing that really stuck out for me.
It's frustrating because they flushed it down the toilet. It was a game they should have won. You have to finish those games. It's one of Pete Carroll's, mate. We should be sat here right now talking about how amazing Tyler Lockett is. We should be sat here saying how great the first half was. That ultimately this is the way the Seahawks need to play: apply scoreboard pressure and then finish the game. The Seahawks, what did they score? 1 touchdown in the second half. 1 touchdown. Russell Wilson's thrown 3 ridiculous interceptions. We've got the Benson Mayowa mistake. On the Bobby Wagner one, obviously, clearly that was a ridiculous penalty from the refs, who had a bad game, I think, across the board. There was, for both teams, really, I thought it was poorly called. But the thing about that is that's a penalty deep inside Arizona territory. Yes, they're punting, and if that's not given, but you've still got I think a good 60 yards, 70 yards to play with there in that situation. You still have more than enough time to get another stop, or at least limit them to 3. They give up a touchdown drive. They had one of their famous, 2-minute, 75-yard touchdown drives they gave up today. They had a 12-play, I think, 90-odd yard touchdown drive as well. It's just not good enough. And the positive spin from this, Robbie, is that this wasn't a deciding game in terms of the NFC West or the playoffs. But that really is the only positive. I don't think there's anything to learn from this. I think the only thing to learn from this really is the reality check for those who had sort of seen 5-0 as this great thing, and the Seahawks. I'm seeing Seattle. I mean, how on earth did Seattle get ranked number 1 in any power rankings over the last 2 weeks? How did anybody watch that Minnesota game and think this is the best team in the NFL that we've just watched here? I mean, it was ridiculous that I was seeing Seattle even anywhere near number 1, and they're not going to be after this. And all you're going to hear, and Seattle fans better get ready, because all you're going to hear this week is Russell Wilson, how much has that impacted his MVP credentials? And you'll also hear this defense isn't good enough for Seattle to win a Super Bowl. And yeah, they've got a few days to sort something out here, Robbie, but I think they've made the bet. I think Jamal Adams, with this huge trade, which is, taken up all of their picks for the high picks for next year and the year after, has left them without the ability and the stock. I mean, let's put it this way: if it was only 2 first-rounders, I don't know why the 3rd rounder got chucked in there. If they had Yannick Ngakoue today, who's just gone to the Ravens for a 3rd, I think that would have been a difference. You've not touched the quarterback. You cannot win games in the NFL where you don't even lay a finger on the quarterback, and you turn the ball over 3 times with 3 stupid interceptions, and you just make mistakes, bad tackling, bonehead errors, blown coverages, bad decision making, play calling. I mean, it doesn't. When Tyler Lockett has nearly 200 yards and DK Metcalf has 1 catch for 6 yards, it's understandable if you win. How and why did they not get DK Metcalf involved in the game? I cannot imagine a game where. Let me think. I mean, just come up with a QB, Mahomes, let's say. I cannot imagine a game where Patrick Mahomes doesn't get Tyreek Hill involved at all. I mean, maybe it's happened and I'm just got a bad memory. I don't know. I mean, it just seems improbable, for just one player to have all the and not to have anything to DK. And if it was all to Tyler and they'd won handsomely, fine. But to have all that yardage for one player, nothing for DK, and lose, and only get 1 touchdown in the second half, Robin, where was the adjustment? Where was let's find a way to isolate DK in a matchup that we know we can exploit? There are so many frustrating things, and it's a drop game, like I said, in the NFC West. Don't want to labour the point, but these things matter when you get to the end of the season. If you drop a game against the AFC East, it doesn't really matter. Dropping games in the NFC West and the NFC is what will matter for seeding, for winning the division. And now you've got to go and play the Niners and the Rams twice and the Cardinals again, and you're already behind the 8 ball.
Well, I'll just back up real fast for you and just say Mahomes has not gotten Tyreek Hill involved. I have him on my fantasy keeper team, and there's been a couple of times where he has like 2 catches for 10 yards. I'm just saying that it does happen. But yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying. I don't know why they weren't trying to get DK, get him the ball. I like that they tried to do that, get his hands on the ball. I mean, even run a reverse around, get him an opportunity to run. I know Patrick Peterson was started following him around everywhere, but I mean, Tyler put on a good show against Patrick. Why couldn't DK? So I don't know why he just didn't get a lot of looks. But yeah, and then the other thing, Rob, I don't really know why they tend to run these like weird like runs plays that just never seem to work. And I kind of already touched on it earlier, but like when I think back to the game, like there's so many times where if they just would run straight up, like if they let Carlos Hyde run straight up the field instead of trying to go on the outside, and like, I don't know if it's a time waste thing or whatever they're trying to do. Yeah, sometimes it works, but more often than not, it just feels like it's a big failure. And then one more negative for me that I just remembered as well is DJ Dallas. He blew a huge block where they finally brought guys in the middle, and he just looked lost. And I don't know why Travis Homer wasn't in on that point. I mean, he's been able to pick up the blitzes better. So for me, it just seems like the scheme and the way that they're moving guys in and out and trying things differently. I don't know why they wouldn't. Like, if you're going to pass the ball and you need an interior running back to block, then bring in your best blocking running back. Why bring in the rookie DJ Dallas, who didn't seem like he was anywhere close to being near the ball or near the linebacker who rushed.
I think they've said that Travis Homer had a knee contusion, so he was out of the game at that point. But
okay, I missed that. Yeah.
I just think I don't know. There's so many like aspects to it that you could just, you could kind of do a whole podcast on this element of the game and this element of the game. You've got Wilson's performance, you've got the defense being wet toilet paper, you've got, mistakes like the Mayowa mistake, you've got DK's run, which is a positive, you've got Tyler Lockett's performance, you've got the way the play call. And I mean, another one that sort of baffles me a little bit, Robbie, is just, it really is the way that they handled the end of the game. You've got the first down and you've got out of the 2-minute warning, and you think, right, here you go. Here's your check. You need one first down to win the game. And I know that you're cautious of the timeouts that Arizona have got. You don't want to give them too much time. You don't want to let them hold on to one of those. But ultimately, your defense is so bad. It is so bad. You cannot trust your defense. How do you not attack a bit more there? How are you going to rein it in and say, okay, we need one first down and we're going to put the game in the hands of Carlos Hyde? It wasn't even Chris Carson. It was, we need one first down, 3 Carlos Hyde runs. How on earth in that situation are you not saying, Russell, win us the game? Throw it on first down. Just take a check. You need one first down, I think, in that situation. If that doesn't win you the game, then it gets you right down to 10 seconds or something like that. You can manage it properly. Throw it on first down and say, look, we're going to give you an easy throw that we'll get a player there. Go and try and win us the game here. Attack Arizona. And they didn't. They put the game in Carlos Hyde and the I mean, that is it in a nutshell. We don't want Russell Wilson to try and win the game. We want Carlos Hyde and then the defense to try and win the game. That is not going to cut it, Pete. That is not going to cut it this season. You cannot do that. Badly as Wilson played, it needs to be on him in the vital moments of a game. You cannot be putting it on Hyde in the defense. And Robbie, we haven't got much time, and I don't want to get into this too much, and it's late for me. For me, it kind of sums up what has been a pretty horrible week for the Seahawks. I think it's been a rubbish week. I think that, allowing yourself to connect yourself to Antonio Brown and then have 2 days of answering questions about that, and have Russell Wilson looking as uncomfortable as he ever has done in a press conference, only to miss out. And Jay Glazer said today, the Seahawks thought they had a chance of signing him, but they didn't. He was always going to go to New England and be with Brady. It looks bad in so many ways. It looks like, for starters, it looks like he used Russell Wilson and Seattle, or, that they were always like the second choice. it's bad because a lot of people don't want anything to do with Antonio Brown, and you've got to go and face those questions, and you've got to say, from an ethical point of view, if you're going to cross that line, you've got to have a justification for it. But if you're jolly well going to cross that line, you better get the deal done and get him signed. You don't connect yourself. No other teams did that. They didn't connect themselves and miss out. And Tampa Bay just quietly got it done. And then Bruce Arians came out today and was pretty emphatic with the way that he answered the questions about Antonio Brown. So you have all that to start with of the week. Now you have a performance like this where they've blown a game. And now I'm kind of sat here thinking, Niners next week, very difficult game. You aren't going to be able to stop that offense the way that was moving today, playing the way that you have on defense today. Russell Wilson is going to have to be a lot better next week. And a week's a long time. If they come out next week and handsomely beat the Niners at 6-1, people will quickly move on from this game. For me, I'm thinking of January and December and where you're going to be in the standings, where you're going to be in the seedings, where are you going to be going in January in the playoffs? And I don't think this team's progressed from last year, Robbie. I think Russell Wilson is cooking, not because Pete and Brian Schottenheimer have come together and said, we're going to change everything. I think they're doing it because they know how bad their defense is. And they know that they have to try and win by scoreboard pressure. This is caused by the environment, not so much by ideology, by philosophy. It's because they have to. And it's not good enough. The defense has got worse from last year, and some serious questions need to be asked about that. Someone needs to say to Pete Carroll, how did you end up with this pass rush when you stated it was a priority? Just explain it. Did you find was it harder than you expected to get players done? Were you banking on having Clowney back? It's a serious question that needs asking. If you're going to turn around and ask Russell Wilson the questions he did about Antonio Brown, I think you have to ask Pete Carroll some serious questions about how they've built the pass rush. Obviously, two completely different things. Antonio Brown stuff is much more serious than anybody's pass rush. But it's still a question that needs to be asked. And Carroll needs to come up with a convincing answer, because for me, it's going to potentially cost them a wasted season.
Yeah, I'll just touch real fast on the Antonio Brown thing, just because I've been reading a lot about this, and I saw Mike Florio say something that there's rumor around the league that maybe Pete Carroll brought out the information about Antonio Brown so that he could drum up interest, because he actually didn't want to sign him, but he wanted to make it look like he wanted to sign him just because Russ wanted him, but maybe he didn't actually want him. So I don't know. I mean, we don't really know the behind the scenes. Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to have Antonio Brown on the team just for pure offensive side of the ball. Like, I know it comes with a lot of question marks and whatever, and okay, they had to deal with it for a week. Now they don't have to deal with it. Frustrating as it might have been to have to deal with those questions, it would have been nice to have him out there running routes for us, and how great would it look to, like, who's Patrick Peterson going to cover now? Is he going to cover DK? Is he going to cover Antonio Brown? Like, Tyler Lockett clearly had a huge game, and, throwing a third wide receiver like that would have been awesome. So I don't know. There's so many things that, so many moving pieces, and it's a chess game that to actually know what the actual, there's so many different reports of what it could have been. And I have no idea. And I don't know how much I trust Mike Florio, but it's something that I hadn't thought of. And so just throwing that out there, it came up, man.
I thought that report sounded like absolute baba. I mean, come on. Yeah. Here's what the Seahawks did. They made it. They're very aware that they were interested in Antonio Brown. Had 2 days of people, complaining about it on Twitter. Had their quarterback go out and face the music in a really uncomfortable press conference, so Tampa Bay could sign him for the veteran minimum with bonuses tied to winning the Super Bowl. Come on. Yeah, that really.
I don't know, man. I was just saying. I just giving you something else. I don't know.
Mike Florio. I don't know. I don't know where he pulled that one from, but it may have been downstairs, because it was. Come on. That was a very strange read when I read that, and very complimentary.
Yeah, it was just something I had thought about. Like, maybe Pete really didn't want him. I don't know. Like, who knows? Maybe they were just trying to appease Russ but didn't actually want to sign him. So just throwing that out there. I mean, who knows how realistic that is.
Yeah, I think it's just, a very frustrating night. And if they'd had escaped with a win, there would have still been a lot of issues with this team. But, if they keep winning, you just think, well, whatever, we'll come to these kind of more difficult conversations when they've lost a game. They have lost one now. And I think it shines a spotlight on some of the issues that, perhaps people were willing to ignore when they were winning 5-0 and beating teams. They're 0-1 in the NFC West. They have to bounce back. It's a huge game next week. If they lose to San Francisco and get 0-2 in the NFC West, then they're in a big issue. They're in big trouble with regards to this division, even at 5-2, especially with the games against the Rams coming up. And it's very hard to see how they're going to fix this defense. And Wilson, wow. I mean, I don't know. He's had bad just to finish on this, Robbie, he's had bad performances where nothing's happened. He's had, hardly any yards. Is that as second half and that overtime period as bad as he's looked apart from the NFC Championship game in 2014? Green Bay away, Green Bay on the road.
Man.
Great. There was Green Bay on the road, wasn't there, when they got blown out?
Yeah, and he didn't look very good. He didn't look very good in that freezing cold game against Minnesota either. But man, yeah, I don't know. It could be.
Just with the nature of the interceptions.
It's just the nature of the interceptions. Yeah, because I mean, honestly, I don't know. He played terrible. It's just those interceptions were bizarre and like not very characteristic of him, and seemed very like, just really bad passes and not smart. And he usually is he's a smart football player and doesn't seem to turn over the ball a lot. And so to have 3 in one game, and to have it be as ugly as they were, really kind of just diminish his whole 388 yards that he had. And he had some beautiful passes today as well. So it's really tough to say. But yeah, I mean, that whole second half was just, I think, on the whole offense, I mean, Russ included, but it's on everybody, not just him, but yeah, just overall, this is a really bad second half and overtime, and they just didn't adjust, and which is, again, not very Seahawks-like. I mean, we always seem to do better in the second half, and clearly 41 times in a row we had a 10-point lead going in to the second half, and we won the game. So to blow it for the first time, yeah, just not very characteristic, I guess.
Tough one to deal with, and this is the first time we've done an instant reaction podcast after a loss, and I've found it really hard. I don't know about you, Robbie. It's not as fun, is it?
No, I wasn't looking forward to this at all. Yeah, I was like, let's just get it out of the way.
Well, look, I hope me whinging about it and Robbie, trying to find a positive slant here and there, but also voicing some concerns as well. I hope it.
I just really hope that. I mean, I don't think like. I really don't think like Carlos Dunlap or whoever it is, Ryan Kerrigan, whoever it is going to come in and like transform this defense. But I just like, I do think Jamal Adams coming in, he elevates the guys around him. People play because of his energy. They will play better. I feel like that will be a real thing. I mean, he doesn't have to play. And I agree with you. He didn't play good in that first half against New England, but I think in that second half, he lit it up and it was all over the field. So I don't know. Again, I don't know how PFF does their grades. Don't really care. Eye test. He was all over the place in that second half of that New England game, but was totally non-existent in that first half of that New England game. But yeah, I think he'll come in. He'll definitely help. Who knows what Snacks will do if he can come in and help, if he can even get in shape, if he can help. I mean, I don't know. We just need to get someone else. We just need to keep trying. Like, let's throw something together before we can't do it, because what's going to happen is the trade deadline is going to come and go. And once it's gone, that's it. This is what we're rolling with. So I'd rather just, unless we snag somebody off a practice squad or something, but I want to see us go out and try to make an effort to improve the defense any way we can.
Why didn't they just improve it in March? That's the question I'm going to be asking for the whole of the season, and probably a long off season as well. Why did they not just do what they said they were going to do?
Get some Seahawks credentials, go to one of the press conferences and ask Pete yourself.
Yes. Well, if they were coming to London, that may well have been possible, but I'm afraid not. Right, that's as far as we go. Like I was going to say, I hope us complaining is kind of just, I don't know, giving you some comfort in any way at all after a crushing loss. They're always worse when they're like this. Like I say, I always kind of think when you just lose and it's been on the cards and you've had maybe like a quarter to think about it, it's not as bad as when you're 10 points up. When Tyler Lockett scored that touchdown late in the fourth quarter, you're thinking that's the game. You're thinking from that point there, going for it on fourth down, that's going to be the game. And to end up losing in that way, really hard to take. Right, we'll leave it there. For more analysis, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. We'll be back in the week to preview a big game against the San Francisco 49ers. Please like and share the podcast, and we'll see you next time.